For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce another interest rate hike today after its meeting ends. The anticipated 0.75 percentage point increase will be its sixth interest rate hike to tame inflation and will still lead to higher loan rates for many businesses and consumers. It's already sent borrowing rates surging across the economy and heightened the risk of a recession. Chronic inflation has also become a central point of attack for Republicans against Democrats in the midterm congressional election. With just days ahead of the midterm elections, President Joe Biden campaigned in Florida yesterday, where he touted his legislative victories, including on health care and the economy, and he warned of Republican obstruction if Democrats lose seats in the upcoming elections. Christopher Martinez reports.
President Joe Biden flew to Hallandale Beach, Florida, Tuesday. He says he came to talk about two very, very, very important programs.
And they're under siege by our Republican friends. Social Security and Medicare are the two things I want to talk about.
Biden touted some of his recent legislative accomplishments working with Democratic lawmakers, such as measures that capped some health care costs for Medicare and prescription drugs, and other efforts to deal with inflation and the economy. But Biden says those accomplishments, and more, are at stake in the midterm elections coming up in just a week.
If Republicans in the Congress have their way, the power we just gave Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices goes away, gone. $2,000 cap on prescription drugs, gone.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
The man accused of breaking into House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home and beating her husband with a hammer entered a plea of not guilty in San Francisco Superior Court yesterday. A judge ordered him held without bail. Eileen Alfandary has more.
San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins called David DePape a very dangerous man.
Not only is this someone who engaged in a pre-planned attack on the speaker in her home, but someone who was willing to enact violence that was politically motivated. And so, yes, we certainly view him as a public safety risk to the city of San Francisco, certainly to the speaker.
A court filing says DePape told police he was on a suicide mission, seeking to kidnap Nancy Pelosi, and had plans to target a local professor, other California and federal politicians. They have not been named. In the court filing, prosecutors said Paul Pelosi was knocked unconscious by the hammer attack and woke up in a pool of his own blood. The filing also said that DePape told officers and medics at the scene that he was sick of the lies coming out of Washington, D.C. DePape's social media posts and pages are no longer accessible, but they were filled with right-wing conspiracy theories about QAnon, Pizzagate, and racist and anti-Semitic posts. Right-wing conspiracy theorists have claimed DePape was Paul Pelosi's lover in the attack, a lover's quarrel. DePape is scheduled to return to court on Friday. I'm Eileen Alfandary.
Former President Barack Obama campaigned in Nevada yesterday for Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who faces a Trump-backed Republican challenger, Adam Laxalt. He's a former state attorney general who helped promulgate the big lie that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from Trump by pushing false claims of voter fraud. He also downplayed the deadly January 6th Capitol insurrection by Trump's followers. Obama, while talking up Democrats' vision, also linked political violence to right-wing rhetoric.
Demonizing political opponents creates a dangerous climate. And elected officials who do not explicitly reject, if they just ignore or make light of that kind of violence, or if they encourage their supporters to stand outside voting places armed with guns and dressed in tactical gear, if that's the environment that we create, more people are going to get hurt. And we will be violating the basic spirit of who we are as a people.
He said he spoke to Paul Pelosi recently, who was recovering from a politically motivated attack. The Associated Press is reporting aides to former President Trump are making quiet preparations for a 2024 presidential campaign that could be launched soon after next week's midterm elections. Trump will try to capitalize on expected Republican wins to propel himself toward becoming the front runner for his party's nomination. Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to be heading towards victory in the country's national elections, as some 85% of ballots have been counted and show voters gave him and his far-right allies what looks like a stable majority in the country's parliament. Although votes are still being counted and results are not finalized, Israel's likely headed to its most right-wing government, bolstered by a strong showing from the ultra-nationalist religious Zionism Party, whose members use inflammatory anti-Arab and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Russia's defense minister says it's agreed to return to a Turkish and United Nations brokered deal that allows a shipment of millions of tons of Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea port. Russia suspended its participation over the weekend, citing allegations of a drone attack against its Black Sea fleet by Ukraine. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.